Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are back with another Neurodiversity Stories, and I'm your host. My name is Darren Clark, and I created Neurodiversity Stories to spread more awareness around neurodiversity. So we have had phenomenal guests every single week, all sharing their experiences around neurodiversity, and also just kind of giving their thoughts on how things are changing and maybe their experiences in the past. And it's just been incredible. And today we have yet another phenomenal chap, Matthew Head. He's a senior vehicle design and engineer and founder of Dyslexia Hacks. Incredible individual. And I know you guys are going to absolutely love him. And I really do appreciate him giving up his time and his busy schedule to come on to Neurodiversity Stories. So, guys, as I said before, I do this purely to try and spread more awareness around neurodiversity, and I really do appreciate everyone's support on this. People tuning in from all different parts of the world. So if you are tuning in, please let us know where you're tuning in from, maybe what country you're tuning in from. I know we go as far as kind of Australia, Kenya, Argentina, and Africa, and things like that. So please feel free to pop in the chats underneath if where you are and where you're from. So guys, I also want to say a massive thank you to our sponsors, Claro Software, and I want to show you guys this. So guys, Claro Software develops assistive technology software for people with disabilities such as print and read for reading and difficulties like dyslexia to keep them achieving all they can. Incredible organization. Please do. All the details will be in the links in there. So please do check them out. Again, guys, if you could just let us know where you're tuning in from, that would be fantastic. And now I bring on my next guest. Well, my first guest, my only guest for today, is Matthew Head. So as I mentioned before, he's a senior vehicle design engineer and founder of Dyslexia Hacks. He's going to be sharing his story around his dyslexic journey and some of the kind of twists and turns that he's done. And it's phenomenal journey he's been on. How he's gone from a mechanic and now an engineer, working on some incredible projects. So guys, I want to give a warm welcome to my good friend, Matthew Head. Good morning, Matthew. How are you this morning?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, very well, sir. Very well indeed. Thank you so much indeed for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on to Neurodiversity Stories.
No problem at all.
Matthew, I know I've obviously been following you on social media, on LinkedIn, seeing the incredible stuff that you're doing for the neurodiversity community, and also the incredible journey that you've been on. It'd be amazing if you could just let the people who are watching kind of a little bit about you and kind of who you are and what you do. That'd be amazing.
Yes. Okay. So start at the beginning. So I got picked up on statement with dyslexia at about 6 years old. Apparently my mum has to fill me in on the early stuff, but I had a bit of a sort of lesson understanding teacher in my first year of school. And then when I moved into my second year, the teacher I had sort of did a lot of reading up around the subject and thought that maybe I was dyslexic. So she sent me through to be statemented, which I did at about 6. I did done various things along school time, including I have vague memories of going to like extra help sessions where we had to do a load of stuff for dyspraxia, being pushed around. I've never done this, being statemented with dyspraxia, but I remember going off on this sort of trial thing when I was in secondary school, which I swear were cod liver oil tablets, but I think there was whether they could do medication as well. So, as an adult, when you get creaky knees, you're like, these are the same tablets.
Dreadful taste.
Yeah. So, so all the way through school and secondary school, I'd always have the sort of, because you got statemented quite late on in life, didn't you? In your 30s,
Yeah,
if I remember.
30,
Yeah.
36, 37. Yeah, so
All
very,
right, it's about
very
the same
late.
age I am now.
Thanks
And
for
it's
that.
really interesting to. That's okay. But it'd be interesting to get into that, how it's different. I've never had the light bulb moment and going, oh, that's what it is. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's all I know. So I kind of went through school, had all the extra lessons in school. I remember them sort of arguing with me whether I should drop a GCSE to get an hour extra help a week. But the only one they'd let me drop is one of my strongest subjects. So I kept it and sort of battered on through. Then got into college. And by the time I'd finished college, I was kind of done with education. My brain had melted. I then got a job as a HGV technician. I worked for various companies, mainly Volvo trucks, a bit of work at Mercedes-Benz.
Okay.
And then, late 20s happened and we're walking around. I worked in quite a large workshop. So during the week, you'd have like 12, 15 techs in, but weekends doing 12-hour days on 4 on, 4 off shifts. Gives you a lot of time to think when there's only 4 people in there floating around.
Yeah.
Do I really want to be doing this all the time? Like 10 years in the future, something. Yeah. Walking around. Like, I remember I had an apprentice who worked with me and I could tell him in encyclopedic detail what the engine did. And so I started having a look at other jobs. And I remember I grew up in a place called Basingstoke, but Reading has got I think it's BP or Shell have got a fuel testing facility there. And basically they run engines so they blow up and then drain the oil out and check the engine. I'm like, well, I can do that. I can strip engines. I can definitely run engines till they blow them up and all that kind of stuff.
Was that your excitement part with this? You just heard the blowing up part and you thought,
yeah, if it's loud, noisy and got tires on it, I'm normally well into it.
That's your remit. That's the yeah.
Yes, yeah. A lifelong motorcyclist, lifelong watching motor racing. I currently design high performance cars and I've designed motorcycles before in the past. But yeah, so I remember reading that job spec thinking, awesome, this looks like me. I can do all the analysis. And then, engineering degree. Every job I read, like I have worked this job at Triumph Motorcycles designing their bikes, but I remember reading their job spec being, must have an engineering degree. So I ended up at 26 or 27, going to university for 4 years and come out the other side with a master's in engineering.
Wow. Congratulations for that.
Thank you very much. But what really surprised me on the subject of neurodiversity, there was a lot of self-limiting beliefs I'd had in my early life of what I couldn't do. And it's like, uni education is for clever people who can put the right there in a sentence and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I guess with university in sense, it does have. It's kind of like the creme de la creme of education. That's how I see it. In the sense that, and I guess if you're neurodiverse in some aspects, then there are this thought pattern that goes through your mind thinking, do I belong here? Can I get the great, when you look at the application process and you think, well, actually, you need to get this and this to apply. And then when, if you can get through the door and you can get there, then a lot of it, like I said, that mindset around, it being a university, I can definitely see.
Yeah. And you end up making loads of friends, obviously, at university and having neurotypical friends, and we help each other with coursework. And they will pick me up and have a laugh when I've put something really random in the middle of a sentence. But I did engineering, so a STEM subject, but there's various stuff where we're doing statics or dynamics, calculating forces on an object or how stuff moves. Well, I visualize it. And then I slowly come to realize that maybe lots of other people couldn't do that. So why have you used this calculation for this part? Well, because that's how it moves. Is it? Yeah. And then you'd be doing stuff with pens and rulers in a lecture trying to show them. And I understand now. And it's
that in general, then that's just, people would say to you, how do you do this? And, how do you do this and this? And I guess, like for everything, you're thinking, well, that's all I know. That's kind of, it's not like you just, we learn skills, don't get me wrong. But a lot of the stuff that we do is just kind of inherently, that's kind of how we problem solve. That's how we see things.
And it's particularly with, as you mentioned in your intro, my website, Dyslexia Life Hacks, as I've been finding out stuff as I've launched that and talking to other neurodiverse people and then comparing it with neurotypical people, you're like, oh, I thought everybody thought like that. It's like,
so that could have been a little bit of a light bulb moment in the sense of thinking, well, actually, maybe people think that. So Matthew, when you so you were diagnosed at what age again? Sorry, just
6.
6. So very, like I said, it's very kind of early on, and then
Mm.
you've obviously spoken to you said your mum about how that kind of process works and those elements. So school. So did school feel any different to you growing up to your peers?
I think so. I've got quite an eclectic set of peers. So primary, not so much. I'd always be the guy in the corner with the unsung heroes of school. I don't know. They used to call them special needs assistant, but I don't know what they're called now. Back in the 90s.
Yeah, education's moved on. I think it's learning support.
Learning support assistants probably what they call them now. And so I'd always be sat off, particularly during English lessons, with them in the corner. And then as I got to secondary school and my school split us up into groups with ability, then I would be in the lowest group in English and then the second highest in science.
Yeah.
So you'd end up with, and the problem with that I found with the lower group in English is that I'm in there because I'm dyslexic, and my dyslexia is really bad for sort of the spelling grammar side of it.
Yeah.
That's my particular strong point with my weak point, with my EdSite profile. But you're also in there with the kids that just don't want to be there. So
it's a difficult balance, and I guess I can only relate to kind of my school. And I mentioned about primary school. I look back on primary school with rose tinted glasses, and I think everything was fine and everything was there. But with diagnosed dyslexia and ADHD, I'm pretty sure it wasn't just smooth sailing. And I guess I probably only really kind of relate to the problems in school with the secondary. And I think it's something that you've kind of mentioned in the sense that you start getting tested, or you start getting accounted for your ability. So it's a case of, this is an English lesson, you need to conform, you need to do this, and then you're graded at the end of it. So I guess those elements of stress and anxiety that would come into it, that's probably why I personally think of primary school of, building blocks and having fun and coloring in and all these other bits and pieces, and then secondary school being a real struggle.
I think I was kind of odd. So like primary school, I do remember being, because you always go off and sit in the corner of the classroom. We had quite a big classroom. You'd always be the guy who's asked, why you sat over there, or why do you have to disappear off of this lesson? And at that age, I was like, well, don't want to tell people why. But
were you told why, Matthew? Were you told why?
Well, I knew. Well, I knew because I was dyslexic, so I needed one-to-one help to help me bring me on. But and why are you the person who sits behind in exams as everybody leaves? You're just sat there still squirreling away.
Yeah, and it can have a massive impact, can't it?
Yeah, I could never square in my head, particularly at secondary school, where I'd be in a high group for maths and science, and then a low group for English, and it'd just be all over the place. And I'd end up with quite a big mix of people, because you'd suddenly appear in the high group class for maths and science, and then people would disappear off to a different classroom for an English lesson.
That's difficult. Like I said, that kind of trail where you feel kind of, because secondary school, for me, I just kind of wanted to fit in. I just wanted to kind of just get by and kind of, be a complete extrovert in those aspects, but just kind of just fly underneath the radar. And I guess with what you're saying is that you're then with your peers in the higher set classes, and you kind of feel that camaraderie around that element, and then you're then separated, then you're in a different class, then you're in this. So as a young adult, that must have been, like you said, hard to deal with in your mind.
I do remember. It was always tricky with that, because as I alluded to earlier, that a completely different attitude between the high group and the low group. When you're in English, that I remember being in English class and the teacher's got no control, and then I moved to the science class, my next lesson, where we're all sat there geeking out about the science experiment, and it's the difference between the different groups of kids at that age. But they're always like, well, you're the smart one. Why are you with us lot for this lesson? And then you disappear off with all your friends in the smart group afterwards, was always the sort of teasing. But I do remember in the first few years of secondary school, they didn't do that. It was more GCSE levels they did that. And I would be sat with my sort of peers and the other groups who I'm still friends with today. I remember bringing in like 5 pages of essays and they're bringing in 15, 20. And like, how have you written so little? Well, because I'm concise. Why have you written so much?
so we mentioned about, so, we kind of fast forward, kind of left school. Then did you do, is it college, then university, or is it then?
Yes, I went to college and studied a national diploma in engineering. But by the time I got to the end of college, I went from my last year of school to my first year at college in one student a year, because I suddenly started doing stuff I really liked. So just threw everything at it. But by the time I'd done 3 years of that, I was kind of done with education, and a little bit of a misunderstanding of what an engineer does and what university means. And I guess a misheld belief on my part that that's where all the smart people with the, I don't know, the expensive families and the super high grades go, which is completely wrong. So I got a job as a HGV mechanic. Me and my dad used to fix his lorries when we were younger, so it was kind of a natural thing I ended up in. And it was only then I did that for nearly 8 years, and then went to university, which was a shock when you turn up and your first lesson is dynamics followed by maths, and they put like the equation on the board. Does anybody not know what this means? And I realised I'm the only one who's done that.
What was the kind of, the feeling of then going back as a kind of a, as a student kind of later on in life, so to speak? I mean, it's not, and that kind of emotion going through, thinking, obviously it was a, something that you wanted to kind of learn and stuff. So that was definitely there. But what was the kind of the emotion like going back?
It was a big step. Because gave up job and went back full time. I knew with how I learned that I'd have to throw everything at it at that point of time anyway. So it was a huge shock. I went to uni in Scotland, so Scottish degrees are slightly different. English degrees are over 4 years, and their first year is a little bit, they're a little bit more like doing the second part of an AS level. So that ramped me into it pretty quickly. But it was a shock. Being 26, 27 and suddenly 17-year-olds turn up in the same lecture as you is a bit interesting. But I remember my first semester, I went all the way through it, and we have to do quite heavy mathematics. And there's a book that's like 3 inches thick called Engineering Mathematics by Stroud. And they were cruel by making us do exams in January. So Christmas holidays, revising exams. And I remember having to start from the beginning of that, and I just went through it. It was the first exam all the way through it until I got to the day before the exam. And that's as far as I revised. No past papers, just learnt it from first principles all the way through. It did all the power laws that we'd learnt in lectures, just try and get my brain back into this gear. And then I got an A. So I was like, wow, okay. That was, all Christmas holiday, just sat with this textbook, filled a notepad up, and then got decent grades for the rest of the exams that I had to sort of lower priorities to catch up. But interestingly, how stuff has changed as well. So from school where you just sat with a teacher but still wrote stuff down by hand, to university where I was doing coursework by using Dragon. What's that? Dragon, naturally speaking.
No, that's brilliant, because I was going to ask what kind of stuff, maybe assistive technology. What kind of things did you use to kind of assist with that?
Yeah,
so Dragon was.
Yeah, so Dragon was the main one, and then your sponsor with their text help where it reads it back out to you. Claro text help was the key ones I used. Used to sit, got really good at presentations, because I'd already talked the subject into my laptop so many times, writing a report on it. So Dragon was the thing that saved me, because I always run the analogy that there's like a 6-lane motorway in my head with all the information, but it has to come out on a little B road, and Dragon grows the B road into an A road.
Great analogy.
Yeah. So that really helps, although it's quite amusing having to then fix all its quirks. Have you ever used Dragon at all? Yeah,
I've used Dragon, Clara. I've used a few other kind of assistive technology as well. I'm quite fortunate, really, in the sense that I've kind of given quite a few different tech to kind of sort of trial and see what it looks like and stuff. So I mean, and I guess that's brings me on to the next thing is for me, there's certain assistive technology that, it all kind of works. Don't get me wrong. It's incredible now. What we've got now, definitely to what I had when I was going in the schools in kind of the 80s, 90s. But I guess, for each individual, one would work better for someone, or one would just, have you found that, Matthew? Have you found that something maybe it's easier to use, or maybe you just connect with it, or maybe
I think so. I think there is a certain usability of it, and it's Dragon was just the one that I got given. It was installed on you get the laptop through the government scheme to assist people with neurodiversity at university. So it's the one it come with, and it does work really well. But I have sharing notes. Being an engineer is quite popular for people who are neurodiverse. So swapping notes with other dyslexic people, it's interesting how some of them don't like it. Particularly, as I went to uni in Scotland, they have strong Scottish accents. So sometimes Siri never used to understand what they were saying. Where I will dictate stuff to my phone via Siri and things like that. So I have found that I used to find some stuff just seemed clunky, and it was a point we were making the other day where Dragon's brilliant if you're at home in your home office, but you can't yell it across an open plan office at work, can you?
Do you find then, how did Dyslexia Hacks? I mean, I know you briefly mentioned the fact that you thought to yourself, I thought everyone kind of knew this, and I guess definitely with me, with my kind of journey of understanding dyslexia and ADHD, and now kind of more neurodiversity, I do think people are kind of asking me questions, thinking, well, is that not do people not know that? So how did that kind of Dyslexia Hacks come about? It's incredible, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. So Dyslexia Life Hacks is a website I did last year. Really, it come back a few years ago. So being in a STEM environment, we're all swapping notes all the time. And I remember sitting with a project manager I was working at the time, and we're doing a project plan, and we're both dyslexic and can't spell this word. And I, without thinking, I've got my phone on the desk, call the assistant up. I won't say its name, or every phone going mad.
We'll keep going.
How do you spell whatever the word was? And of course, it speaks it back to you. And he just looked at me, he's like, I never realized you could do that. And it kind of started a light bulb off in my head. And as we went through, I never knew that Word had a synonym checker in it. So, if you put the wrong word in a sentence, you right click synonyms and you look at all the synonyms, you're like, well, they're not what I'm after. It's another way of checking. I said, why is there not a place where I can find this? And I was like, Dyslexia Hacks or just whatever into Google. And Lifehacker do one, and I think a couple of other websites do it at times, or whatever. But they're all big swathes of text. I'm like, well, this is clearly not written by a dyslexic person, is it? Like, here, read lots of stuff. So I unfortunately got made redundant last year. So it's one of the things I did while I was redundant. I thought, I'm going to make a website. Typical dyslexic thing. I'm going to teach myself how to make a website, how to use Photoshop, how to put this together.
I think at lockdown, I think I've built 7 websites. Some websites I don't even know what I'm going to do with them. I'm just kind of like, I could do
that surely. How hard could it be? And I realized I had 21 of them already on a notepad saved in my phone. So that's it. I didn't realize people didn't know that there's dyslexic friendly fonts. I didn't know there was people out there who've got like dyslexia correction programs and various other methods, like using mind maps, or there's like the Davis method. So I like the idea that, so I had to go, I tried that in January, and that's amazing. But I like the idea that school taught us that we're PCs, but actually we're Macs. So once you've taught how to use a Mac rather than trying to use a Mac badly as a PC, things work. So that's really impressive. There's loads on there. And I've had a few people sort of drop me messages like they didn't know. One of my favorite ones is the Google it hack, which is, if you've got a word that you can't spell. So say the example of the website is the word rises. Yes, Preaching to the choir, so the word is rises. So you've tried multiple times to try and get the word rises in Word, and it just gives you the red squiggly or auto-corrects it to the wrong thing. And you're like, well, the red squiggly line's gone, but that's the wrong word. Yeah. Well, there's a Batman movie called Dark Knight Rises. So if you write Dark Knight, then the word you're misspelling a rises in Google, hit go, and you get a picture of a movie poster come up, and Google will, do you mean this? You've now got the spelling for rises. and it's also a cool excuse to Google Batman.
You just call him Batman, aren't you? You just want to be. You'll be putting the sign up next.
Yeah, I need to do return so I can Google Superman. Yeah.
You know what? I want to kind of just briefly go back to you mentioned about dyslexic friendly fonts. Now,
yes.
About it must be like 6 years ago when I was kind of 6-7 years ago, just really kind of using LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn's changed massively now.
Yes, it has. Yes.
And I find it incredibly useful to connect and get the message out, and it's just phenomenal for me. And a lot of the connections that I've got. But I also remember probably about 6-7 years ago, I might have been a little bit later. I put a leaflet up that I had made when I first started my very first company, sort of 10, 11, 12 years ago. And I put this leaflet up, and it was almost, as we do Neurodiversity Stories, a massive lover of storytelling. So I was kind of telling the story of this leaflet of how my first day of leaving a job and going around and posting this leaflet out. And then a gentleman came out and ripped the leaflet up and threw it in a puddle. And nice. And then I took the leaflet and I put it, I dried it off, and I sellotaped it together and put it in a frame. Okay, that's kind of the brief thing. So it's almost like, and then you've built this company, and that was your first day. But I didn't realize I put this leaflet up and just showed people and put the story, like the emotional story behind it, which I won't go into. That's the premise of the story. I couldn't believe how many comments and how angry people got over Comic Sans. It was I think I had back then. I think I had one of the highest reaches for post, like 7,500 people looking at, hundreds of comments, and there was like heated debates going on about Comic Sans. I was just like,
Comic Sans.
I do, but honestly,
apparently it's quite dyslexic friendly, from what I understand.
Exactly. And for me, I mean, if anyone is watching this, and please don't get into a debate about Comic Sans. Friendly. But
comment how much you like it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just throw it out. Do we love Comic Sans? What have we done?
Your phone's going to be on fire. Yeah.
But I just couldn't believe it was some of the people were so passionate about it, and I was thinking, I've used Comic Sans for forever. I love it, and
it's something about it. It's supposed to be dyslexic friendly, and I used to proofread presentation stuff in Comic Sans, which can catch you out if you forget to swap it back to Times New Roman before you put it in front of anybody. Or you send it. I always another hack. Use your friends. Send it across to one of my colleagues and go, "Can you proofread it?" It's like, yeah, but why is it in Comic Sans? Because Comic Sans is great.
They just, I don't know. I mean, it was. I guess I didn't really. I wasn't in the world to marketing and advertising then, and I didn't realize how a lot of people has obviously had a lot of bad problems with Comic Sans before, but I just thought it was a fun font and this Courtney Castle, she says Arial all the way.
I use Verdana for all my uni reports because it was quite nicely spaced.
I love this, how we basically moved away and we're basically talking about fonts now. I mean, this is where the conversation leads. So dyslexia hack. So this is something that you're still actively sourcing, still finding and supporting.
Yes, yeah. So the website's a free resource, and it's just something I run in my spare time. There is a submit a hack option on there if anybody's got other ideas. But yeah, I'm sort of always trying to keep my ear to the ground of various stuff. It's grown into other things where I found myself connecting with people like yourself and the wider neurodiversity community, and amazed at how many people are out there with great ideas or just great stories, or how positive everybody is. Because I've learned over the years, it took me embarrassingly over 30 to realize that actually being neurodiverse is a bit of a gift and actually brings advantages in places where other people who are neurotypical may not have a strong point. So it's, the world balances itself out. That's why I don't think it's really sort of a disability. It's just a different way of looking at the world, like the Mac versus the PC kind of thing. And then you get taught as a PC, but you're a Mac, and then it all ends up being a tie in yourself in your head. And the emotional attachment hangs itself on, and that's really tough. And it's one of the things I lost at uni was, hang on, I'm doing this, and wow. So you start shedding off all the limiting beliefs.
Absolutely, and I guess we, whenever we tend to kind of discuss neurodiversity, I've discussed dyslexia and ADHD. We tend to always kind of, there's kind of a journey that unfolds, and I guess we tend to focus, not all the time, but generally focus. Maybe the media would focus or something else that on things that we can't do, or maybe. Yes. The negative element of that, and I guess having more conversations like this and sharing more stories and more success stories and how people kind of relate to things, then it kind of starts breaking down. But I guess initially we always got this, I struggle with this, and so the message that we're putting out a lot of the time does gravitate to that. But
yeah. And I think so. Even some of the new hacks, like somebody submitted one, just be bold, be different, think differently, and I thought it was great. It's not actually a hack per se, but it's a great bit of mindset. So that's sort of the last one that got launched. And just there are little things to help you out. Like if your particular thing is dyslexic fonts, because that helps you read, like Amazon Kindle let you download them to it, or you can even plug them into Word now. I was half tempted to write the whole website in it, but I didn't in the end. So that's quite useful. I do silly things like I always use the same pen just to help my handwriting. So I've got loads of pens everywhere, and I just think it gives me one point to come back to, the same thing all the time.
No, I agree. There is a certain type of pen that I like to write with. I even find, I don't know if it's dyslexia.
Next week's sponsor, right?
but generally, if the pen's too kind of doesn't feel right, it's not smooth enough, I move on. I mean, that's probably just, I don't know, that's fussiness or
maybe we're just mad. Yeah.
How do you I know we touched on before we kind of come on air, we were talking about learning music and things like this. How generally do you find yourself learning new things? So I'll give you an example. So you mentioned the Mac, for instance. Okay, so I've an Android and iPhone. You didn't mention that, I did, right? You mentioned so me transferring over to something. Sometimes there is a big battle, as in I love something new, I love learning stuff and creative. But when I tried to change from a PC to a Mac, I literally I'd go to a coffee shop, pre-COVID, but you can do it now. And I would literally take both computers. And I do some work on I know I do some work on the PC, and then do other work. So I'm sat there, at a coffee table doing this, and it took me such a long time to transfer over and just go, actually, I'm just going to use the Mac. And now I wouldn't, I use it for absolutely everything. But it's that transition. It's again when I was Android and iPhone. How do you deal with learning new things or convert from the old to the new?
I quite enjoy it. I mean, I must admit, I've had the same mobile phone make for years, but I recently started a new job, which you alluded to in the intro, and that uses a different CAD package, so a computer-aided design package. So I've used the same one for 3 years, and then I have to learn a new one. But I quite enjoy that. I don't know whether it's just something in my brain or it's a mode I get into, because having to teach myself how to build websites and things only 2 months before, I'd already got into this. So what I end up doing is squirreling around for a good guide on how to do it. Believe it or not, it's LinkedIn Learning, seems on LinkedIn. And that got me up to speed.
Yeah.
So I'm not too attached to sort of the old ways, because I've spent most of my life trying to work out a way of doing things because the current way doesn't work for me. So as we alluded to in school, you end up having to, I think grit comes up quite a lot in the dyslexic world, because you end up having to slog your way through things and learn alternative ways. It was always what frustrated me with spelling. It's like, I'm able to learn quite a lot pretty quickly, apart from how to do this bit, which is really kind of strange. So I don't, I said, well, you must look like the richest guy in the coffee shop with your 2 laptops.
I don't know. You say that, but you should see my old PC.
Beat to death, is it?
I think it was like an old PC computer or something, with the bright orange keyboard.
But it'd be interesting. I've not used a Mac. But I think something like that, where it's ingrained, like been using Windows for, it feels like forever, doesn't it? That might be a shocker but even like driving left-hand drive cars and lorries never sort of bothered me. I quite like
I think it's, do you know what it is? I think, I think it's a case of if I can set myself to learn something. So if I've got time to kind of, and there's no pressure on learning it in a certain amount of time or something. So, but because I kind of with, the PCs, for instance, or the Macs or whatever, I associate with that actually as a tool to, to do emails or to create things like this or anything else like this. There is that certain pressure. And then it's the kind of the learning that and then getting that done.
I think, the pressure bit is hard, isn't it? Because I'm like, yes, I got this new thing I can learn, and I get really geeking into it. And it's like, but if it's at work, it's like, but I need to deliver to the deadline. And do you ever find, I find like the initial learning phase is great. Like I've learned this new thing and I'm from 0 to 50, 100. And then it drops off as like the voices creep in a little bit. Am I actually any good at this?
All the time.
Yeah.
I critique things all the time. I mean, I tend to learn visually.
Yes,
so
same here.
a lot of my learnings are YouTube based. So I will literally, I will go onto YouTube and I think, okay, I want to learn how to do, how to critique a LinkedIn Live. So I would, look at YouTube, look how someone else has done it, and then start learning. Or if it's software or animation or video or anything else, I will just kind of watch snippets of this. Then I'll start, take that, I'll learn this, take that, learn this, and then suddenly, the skill base grows. If it was a book element, I was reading that and then doing this, that would, I guess I'd struggle. I'm not too sure.
I think it's dyslexia being the gift of mastery. If you can find a way that you're able to learn it, which you and I do the same thing, we both dive on YouTube, we can actually learn things as dyslexic people faster. But if we're throwing the textbook, then that's a little bit harder with having to process the written information. As you say, like sitting there with YouTube tutorials, great, just follow along. I've got this. And then our dyslexic brain soaks it all in and goes,
I put it on. I sort of put out my 11 computers all around me, and I'm get it. So I do. I mean, I literally just have my iPad, or another screen, looking at it, or on my phone, and then I'm kind of almost stopping, pausing, trying, and on that aspect. So that's how I kind of.
But do you find that you've then got it?
Yeah.
Once it's there, it's in.
It's in. But then you start thinking to yourself, well, actually, could it be better?
Yes. The voices. Have you compared that to a neurotypical person, how they learn? First, have you ever sort of done after you and I don't know, a friend of yours tried to learn the same thing off YouTube and compared whether you're ahead of them or behind them in terms of doing it that way?
No, I haven't.
It's something I'd be curious to do. Just sort of try a new skill and see. Something that talent is not going to be a thing, but it's from what I understand how dyslexics think, if you're doing a visual kind of task like learning things off YouTube, which is what everybody does now, you're actually in an advantage.
I love it. I mean, I don't know where I'd be without YouTube. It's I literally just I think it's just a marvel, really, because I can kind of whatever it is I want to learn, there's something there that someone's even done it, even if it's I don't know, unblocking a sink or something. I know how to do that, by the way. Just to clarify, I didn't YouTube how to unblock a sink. But you know what I mean? There are so many things that you can you can search for. And for me, being a visual learner, brilliant. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, huge advantage being a visual learner when everybody's learning via video.
So Matthew, if you could just tell us, because it sounds really quite really exciting what you do is a day job, very technical.
Yes.
I bet it's kind of very, very challenging at times.
Yes,
and it's great. It's a passion of yours as well.
Yes. So I'm a senior vehicle design engineer for a company called RML Group, and they specialize in high performance engineering. They're a bit of the unsung heroes of motorsport. So if you go watch British touring cars at the weekend, most of the cars have RML parts on them. But what a design engineer is if you've ever seen the CAD programs where they've got a car or a bike or whatever on screen and it's all done in 3D. Yeah, I do that. So you will have a car or a motorcycle. When I used to work for Triumph, you start with a blank sheet of paper, some styling sketches, or in a project I'm doing at the moment, it's a bit of reverse engineering. You will then work it out, produce the parts in three dimensions. Then you've got to do all the analysis to stress stuff to make sure it doesn't break, the sun doesn't destroy it, all that kind of stuff. Whatever it needs to go in production, calculations for how tight to do all the bolts up, what bolts to use, all that full stuff, and then walk it through to testing, and refining prototypes into more solid production models, and then the vehicle comes out, and then, look what I did.
Yeah, what a process, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's fascinating, and the companies I've tended to work for like their engineers to be quite dynamic, so you end up having quite a lot of, I guess, new stimulus to learn with, which suits me because I like that. So at Triumph, they turn around bikes in about 3 years. So they spend 3 years on one project, and I was doing brakes and stuff on one bike, and then the next bike I might do something completely different, and that's good fun.
3 years. That's. I mean, it's obviously, the quality that they're putting out is immense. But like I said, 3 years. I guess in this day and age where we're kind of we want it now culture, that's quite a long time.
That's 3 years from somebody in the front of the company saying, we want a new bike, it should be X, and then it's in 3 years time it rolls off and you can go buy it. So that's all of the styling work, the background engineering. Then two-wheel vehicles are sort of a bit unstable, really, and you have to kind of test them to make sure you don't hurt anybody. Then they go into production.
When you said that, I think to myself, 3 years is a long time. But when you've just said, from an idea and design, as an engineer, you probably think that's not long enough.
It's a flat-out hustle.
From day one.
Yeah. There's a good mug somewhere that an engineer is an organism that thrives on ridiculous deadlines and lots of coffee.
Especially the latter as well.
Yeah, coffee's great. But it is. There's quite a lot to do because the sheer detail of it. You're having to deal with multiple components coming in places, and they've got to be close enough to one another that there's no gaps and all that kind of stuff. But you've got tolerances, so each part can be within a size band, and they've got to make sure that if you get two that are the biggest, they don't touch. Then you're doing your stress counts to make sure it doesn't break in certain load cases. Like if it has an accident, it's got to survive it. You also got to think about when it's parked outside in the rain and all this kind of thing. You've got to make sure the bike's stable when it's ridden at 120 mile an hour down the back straight, Donington Park or whatever. There's a lot that goes into these things.
Wow.
And a team of like 30 people are split off into all these little details. So lots of collaboration.
Yeah.
And it's the same at the job at RML where we're working really hard to sort of meet deadlines.
How do you find that from a neurodiverse background in the planning meetings and these? Is it something that you go in feeling, you thrive in? Is there certain parts of it that you find,
so
a little more struggle?
It tends to be a hotbed for neurodiverse people anyway, so I'm not normally the only neurodiverse person in the room.
Yes, yeah.
It really depends. If I'm minute taker, that's a little bit of a struggle because my hand and hearing can't work at the same time sometimes. But if we're doing quite a lot of it's design reviews, so you might sit in a meeting with the designer up on the screen, and my neurodiverse brain, if it's looking at a PowerPoint slide, is already lifted whatever the part is off of it. So quite a few times it's the neurodiverse people who pipe up like, why are we doing it this way? Why don't we try this? And then you can see everybody else's brain going, oh, that might be a good idea, or not sometimes. But,
Yeah.
I come up with sometimes the crazy stuff because why not? Push the edges and then tie them back in once you come to something sort of homogeneous for production. I don't find it too bad. It's only when a minute taking it can be a struggle. Yeah. But I've sort of doing various methods recently. I've got better at that. But otherwise, in meetings, it doesn't make me too anxious at all because I do what I really love engineering. It's a passion of mine, sort of vehicles and anything motor related.
Yeah.
Well, it's never else I want to be working, so I tend to carry on.
So that's incredible. So you definitely don't. I mean, the journey, like you said, then kind of leaving, a full-time position, stable job, and then going back to, going into university and getting that, and then leaving that is it's real credit to yourself.
Oh, thank you.
In the sense of, and now you're doing something that you really love and you enjoy. And and I always find, and probably, what we touched on just now, and we said about how we kind of find something, if we look the different way that we learn and how much work we put into things. And I guess, because you're doing something that you're really passionate about and you love, the amount of, kind of work that you would put in and effort and everything would be tenfold, because it's a real passion of yours.
Yeah, and it's I can't sometimes get it straight in my head that I used to span a lorries in a pair of overalls for years and years and years, and now I'm sort of sat there designing the whole thing. The early 20-year-old me would have never believed that's what I'd have done by my mid-30s. And that's an advantage. If anybody's out there who's a mechanic now but feels like they want to be a designer, having a mechanic's background is really handy, because you already know how stuff bolts together and whether you can get your hand into spaces to undo it again and all that kind of stuff.
What's your views? Just lastly, what's your views on electric cars? Just lastly, just throw that out there. A massive question.
I think it's definitely the way it's going to be going, and I think intercity it's going to be the thing we do. I think. I quite like. Way, haven't they? They're incredible. They have, and they are getting better, and it's impressive technology. The techie side of me really enjoys it, but I do quite like the theatre of shifting gears and pulling clutches and the noise and stuff. So I'd be disappointed if an electric Ferrari went past me, but because it needs that V12 noise and theatre.
I completely get it. I mean, I always find, with electric cars, just how quiet they are. They just sweep up, next to you. But it's
an interesting debate of how do you warn pedestrians who are tuned into listening to internal combustion cars making noise. Because you walk, it's like you stood there going about across the road, you can hear the car coming. If it's a Tesla, you can't until it's a lot closer. And I think that's going to be an interesting thing.
I think I heard a story, and they were saying they were spending, so many millions on trying to get a design to put onto these vehicles to sound like a car. And again, I'm not. Don't quote me on this, but I did read something. They spent so much money on this, and it was just to try and make the car sound like a car. The electric cars sound like a normal car, but then whether they shelved that or not, I don't know.
Well, I'd be surprised, because you'd want to cut the noise pollution down. So
I'll leave that area. Over to you guys to mold over it. Maybe that's one of your next projects.
Possibly.
Matthew, it's been absolutely incredible speaking to you. I can speak to you all day, my friend. It's just been informative, really good fun. Matthew, if people want to get in touch with you or see the dyslexia life hacks, then how can people get hold of you?
So they can find me on LinkedIn. I think you've linked me into this anyway, or they can go on dyslexialifehacks.com, and there's a contact form there. And if you feel like submitting a hack, great, or just drop me a message on it. I'll pick it up at the other end. That's
amazing. Matthew, thank you so much for your time. And like I said, really, really do appreciate you sharing your wisdom. And
thank you.
Have an amazing rest of Friday and an amazing weekend. And I will catch up with you very, very soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on.
You're most welcome. Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So, guys, that was Matthew. I hope you enjoyed that just as much as I did on here. Absolutely incredible chap, doing phenomenal work for Neurodiversity, and his day job and his work. I mean, I don't think he gave it justice, the amount of kind of technical elements that he's dealing with on a daily basis. But, guys, I want to say a massive thank you as well to all the people that have watched this live, all the people that have watching it on replay. Your support on Neurodiversity Stories has been immense, and I really do appreciate it. If you are looking to share your story or come in and have a chat with me on a Friday, then please do get in touch. Comment below or get in touch with me through the social channels. Guys, have an amazing rest of the Friday. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you soon. Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.